You are, Mayor.
Okay. Call this meeting to order. It's a meeting of the Seward City Council, Monday, March 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Chief, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Mr. Clerk, when you're ready, could you please call the roll?
Roll call for tonight's meeting. Werner?
Here.
Barnwell?
Here.
Wells?
Here.
Kreitz?
Here.
Finch is excused. Osenga? Here. And Mayor McClure.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We now have citizen comments on any subject except items scheduled for public hearing. We do have one public hearing item, and you can testify to that at the time. Otherwise, you can speak on anything. You'll have 3 minutes. There's a 36-minute total time for this, and there was a sign-up sheet, so the people signed up will get the first shot at it, and then I'll take shows of hands as long as time permits. And when you come up, I see some new faces. There's a chair there and a microphone, and we need your name and whether you live inside the city limits or outside, just for the record. Mr. Clerk, who's the first one signed up?
There are 4 people signed in to speak. First on the list is Brendan Ryan.
Okay. A familiar face already.
Since it's a private session later, I can speak on it right now, since it's not a public session. Great. My name is Brendan Ryan, and I live in city limits. I own a couple businesses here in town, and I own 3 properties out in the Forest Acres of Fognac subdivision, which is something that we talked about at the work session earlier today. A lot of this is going to be repeat. I just know that different people watch these meetings differently, and so a lot of people aren't going to watch the work session earlier, but kind of wanted to give a history of what I think is representative of all the property owners here, is that 18 of us bought properties that it's pretty clear now we're in an illegal subdivision. I think that the disclosure that we all signed, certainly there's a buyer beware, but it wasn't a very detailed disclosure, and talking to other members of the city administration recently, it doesn't seem like the paperwork was included that needed to be in order to have a true buyer beware situation. Basically, I don't think the sales would hold up in court if you actually looked at it. For those in the city that aren't familiar with this, we're all looking at a burden of potentially $200,000 per parcel in some cases. My responsibility would be $600,000 per parcel just to put in city utilities to these lots. It's not a feasible thing for anybody here that owns these lots right now. These are all different people. They're retirees, they're young people that are looking to spend their whole lives here in Seward. I think everybody understands that these aren't giant developers coming in or people putting vacation homes in. The majority of these 18 people want to build properties for people that live here in Seward. So we're all put in a pretty impossible situation. I appreciate the work that everybody here in the city has done to solve this situation. I think it's frustrating that 20 years ago a city council member was able to push this through, and then the city was able to recommend to the borough that these plots get subdivided, as I understand it right now. Because there are subdivision lines, there's subdivision plots, there's an email going out that says that the city approves and the city council approves on the contingency that these properties have utilities that are put in. So somehow these lots got subdivided. They got sold to all of us independently because they were subdivided. Otherwise, there wouldn't be independent plots of land. And now we're all stuck with this bill, which is something that nobody's going to pay. It's not a reasonable investment for anybody here. We're all underwater, even on an individual lot, about $130,000 underwater after what we've paid for our lot. I do appreciate all the effort that everybody's put into finding a solution for this. I hope that there's some accountability that's found somewhere, because something really got messed up when this happens and everybody's put in a pretty terrible situation. If it wasn't us, the 18 that bought it, the situation would still be the same because 18 other people would have bought these lots. The real estate situation in Seward is such that it is that essentially all of us bought these after knowing they were on the market for about a day. We did our whatever research we could. The disclosure basically said, well, you got to figure out how much it's going to cost, and there was nobody in the city that could immediately answer those questions because nobody knew. So it's a pretty terrible situation. I appreciate you guys looking at it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Mark Swanson.
I'm Mark Swanson, and I live outside of town. I want to thank you guys for being on the city council and the difficult decisions that you have to make. And I hope that when you're making your decisions, that the first thing you'll think about is this decision good for the people that live in Seward? Because if you have that as your focus, then it also becomes a good place to visit. If you switch it, and your focus is on what's good for the tourists, well then, you got basically a Skagway that's a theme park in the summer and pretty dead in the wintertime. And that's why I'm really grateful and really glad that you're looking at rezoning the Spring Creek area, the beach, because that's a great place. A lot of us go out there, walk on the beach in the wintertime, watch the sunset, walk the dog. My dog died, but and in the summer we get to share it with our guests. And that's where it should be. Focusing on the people that live here. Make this a good place to live. It's a good place to visit. Certainly we don't need more hotels and stuff. We need to take care of the community. And for those people that are the business owners are looking to invest, I'd sure hope that they'd consider investing in like a child care center or perhaps a long-term reasonable housing. Those are the type of investments. Maybe they aren't good for the bottom line as much, but they're a good investment for our community, and that's what should matter. Thank you.
Mark. Mr. Clerk.
Karina England.
Hi, I'm Karina England. I live inside city limits, and I am an applicant for the Seward City seat on the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commission. And I just wanted to introduce myself to everyone, give a face to the name. I know I'm a little bit newer in coming out around the community and trying to like really be open about supporting the community. I've been living here for about a year, but yeah, I'm still showing my face around. So I know I'm not well known yet, but I really love this community. And I just wanted to comment on that. That's one of the big reasons why I applied in the first place. I have a little bit of land use and planning knowledge and a certificate in sustainability, and so those are some of my focuses, but I also just really want to make sure that our voice as a community is heard through the borough. And in doing so, we can also possibly influence the borough to do similar, have a ripple effect throughout and take what's so good about Seward and bring it throughout the rest of the borough. But the more important thing is just making sure that we're not forgotten, that we're still at the table. And I just really want to help bridge that gap. So that's it, that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk.
Last on the list is Tim Ozerkon.
Tim Ozerkoff, outside of city limits. I just wanted to share the contract that's going to be looked over for the Chamber of Commerce. We have a very strong board and very fiscally responsible, and everyone is invested into the Seward community, all of our members, and we've sharpened our pencil, and we're going to try to stretch the funds that you guys are going to be looking at approving to go to the Chamber of Commerce as far as we possibly can to benefit the community and pursue just a better commerce environment as well as a wonderful environment for the residents of Seward and in a year-round economy. So that's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you. And those were the only ones signed in? Okay, if you'd like to speak, raise your hand and I'll call you up. Is there anyone else? Wow. All you people are just here, huh? Okay. You sure? All right, I'll close this portion then, and that brings us to the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda, and I need a motion to approve and a second, please.
I move for the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any changes anyone would like to make? Councilmember Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to remove under introduction of ordinances number 3,
Ordinance 2025-007 for a quick discussion, please.
Okay, and I will move that in under new business. There isn't an ordinance section for that, is there? Oh, there it is, yeah. I got it. It will be in item 10A. Okay. Anybody else have anything? I'd like to give a suggestion of placing on the consent agenda item 10C, number 1, the recommending of Karina England for the KPB Commission. Place it on the consent agenda. Can I do that? Mr.
I'll second.
I mean,
Yeah, if there's no objection,
if there's no,
it can go
does
on to
anybody
consent.
object?
I do.
Okay, then we won't. We won't vote on it. That's okay. We'll just keep it for discussion. Any other changes? Okay, we're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda as amended. Osenga?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda have been approved, and approved on the consent agenda were the March 10th, 2025 City Council meeting minutes, the introduction of Ordinance 2025-005, approving the land use amendment to rezone Spring Creek Park and the Tidelands to the north, located at 403 Nash Road and 3007 Bette Cato Avenue, from an industrial zoning district to a park zoning district. Introduction of Ordinance 2025-006, approving the land use amendment to rezone 4th of July Beach Park, located at 3311 Sorrel Road, from an industrial zoning district to a park zoning district. Introduction of Ordinance 2025-008, amending Seward City Code Title II Electric Utility Department Powers and Duties to include the provision of cashier and utility billing services. And Resolution 2025-030, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Seward Chamber of Commerce for the provision of visitor services and economic development activities in the amount of $300,000 from January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. And lastly, no grounds for protest for the renewal of the liquor license for the American Legion and the Tidewater Tap House.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the city manager report, and you'll find that on page 63 of our incredibly thick packet. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing I would like to highlight in the city manager report this week is a few really important links to explore for volcanic eruption preparedness. So we are getting imminently closer to a potential eruption of Mount Spur, and definitely recommended by safety officials to buy some N95 masks, to get some extra air filters for your car, be prepared to change your oil, all the things necessary to make sure that you stay safe, happy, and healthy during this potential volcanic eruption. We're at the whims of the wind, so not a guarantee that we will see ash, but definitely something to be prepared for. I would also like to highlight that we had about 27 kindergartner visitors to City Hall this past week, and I think that's why I'm still tired. So it was really awesome. I'll let Chris highlight some of the big decisions that they made, but a big thank you to the kindergarten classes for coming in and learning about City Hall and everything that we do here, and a lot of things that we don't. And then another thing I'd like to highlight, our Parks and Rec team got honorable mentions at the Seward Chamber of Commerce Awards last week for their service to our community with all of the great things that they do. And you'll note in their sports and rec discussion, they had the Tony's volleyball tournament 2 weekends ago, which brought 16 teams from across the state, 2 Seward teams of 14 out of town. They also helped host the Native Youth Olympics, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, the Kite Festival is coming up, so really excited to be able to celebrate them with the Chamber of Commerce. So a big shout out to that team. I think that's everything I got.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
In the police department report, It states that they are asking people to not call dispatch to report power outages, and it was born from bad information. Well, I remember distinctly being told we could call that number some years back. So my question is, where do people call? What is, can we have a number that people can call to report a power outage? That's my question, I guess, then.
Yes, the number to call to report the power outage would be the electric utility. I do not have it on the top of my head, but we are also setting up a recording, I believe, along that line. But the key is to not call the police department to ask when the power is going to come back on. You know, if you think that there's an issue, always feel free to call the non-emergency hotline or the emergency line. But many times we see an hour or so even after the power has gone out and notifications have been made, individuals will call and ask when the power is going to be back on. And we do only have one dispatcher on staff at a time, so that does stretch that position pretty thin. So we are working to make it definitely more streamlined, but as you, hopefully we don't run into any big outages, but just something to be mindful of as you choose to call City Hall or the non-emergency line.
Okay, so then if the power goes out, because I get a lot of calls from people worried about why the power is out, other people. If it's 2 in the morning, there's not going to be anybody at the electric, I mean, it would be good to have a number that people could call.
Yes, so it's kind of like a chicken and egg type situation.
I know.
The non-emergency line can be called if you're reporting an outage immediately, and then,
Okay.
but throughout the length of an outage, if you are aware that the outage has already happened, and you are aware that we are also aware, please do not call the non-emergency
So
line.
that's when they call me. You can still feel
Yeah,
free to
in that
me.
case, call the mayor.
I have a whole list of people that call me, but
Yeah, and so it's
that's
just,
why I'd like to have the information right away, because people call me right away.
and for everyone to be aware, we do, if and when we are, as soon as we're aware of an outage, we put it on social media
Okay.
and
Mhm.
send that out. If it's a longer term outage, we will send out notifications. We're working on some other things in the works to make sure that our community is engaged and informed in our outages. So I will add the caveat to the chief's message of don't call, is think and then call.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
Is that a better? He's still giving me side eyes, but.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Barnum.
I was just wondering if you have an update on the SMIC. There was a boat accident with the red paint in the boat.
Yeah, so the red, if you may have noticed in the CMR, we have a really great accident report from the SMIC where a paint carrying red paint and a paint, sorry, a boat carrying red paint and a boat carrying blue paint crashed, and now they're marooned.
We don't got time for that.
Yeah, I didn't write it.
Is that a dad joke?
That's a harbor master.
Yeah. I don't think our harbor masters have. Melissa got up and left you like.
So, just to follow up on that, does that mean that the Mr. Peck, you guys, the fire department did not get the 10 Dalmatians?
They did.
Well, we haven't got to
We
the
haven't
clerk
gotten to
report
that
yet.
report yet.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah,
have to
save
wait
that
on
for the
that
clerk
one.
report. Well, I have sufficiently turned maroon, so I will.
Any other comments, questions for the city manager? Okay. City clerk, we can't wait to hear your report.
Yeah,
And
this
it's
is
on
a-
page 71. if
This
you
is a
want to-
doozy, so. On page 71, we have a report of the kindergarten class who visited City Hall. And Jody and I held down the fort here in council chambers as they cycled through. It was 27 total students, and we did 3 groups of 9. And we discussed the new fire station with the work session presentation, and the kindergartners went over it, and they made some amendments that I wanted to pass on to council.
Thank you.
So there will be 10 Lamborghini fire trucks.
Lamborghini.
There will be 10 Dalmatians at the fire station,
Dalmatian.
and there will be a firefighter's pole installed between the floors. So
Sounds nice.
Makes perfect sense.
Everyone has been advised.
That's really
But
neat.
yeah, it was a lot of fun to have them in here. And it'd be great to see more students of all ages come in and learn more
We've
about what we
always
do here
had-
at City Hall.
Some, so it just depends on the classes, I think. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? That was
That's all
enough.
for now.
Okay.
We're still recovering.
No city attorney report tonight. I don't see the attorney here, which brings us now to a presentation, Alaska Railroad Freight Dock Expansion, Elizabeth Greer. And you'll have a 10-minute time and we can ask questions after.
Great, thanks. Let's see. We got some pretty pictures here. Chris has got it set up. Well, hello and thank you for having us here. Liz Greer with the Alaska Railroad. I'm the project manager on this project for the freight dock. A lot of projects going on over the port right now that you're aware of. This one's focused on the freight dock itself. And so an update to the City Council. So a little background. This came out of the Seward Master Planning, which we did in 2017. A lot of outreach in the community, and several projects were identified to move forward. And one of those was the freight dock. So with the freight dock out there, it is a viable operation we have, but it's not big. Right now you can see that one small barge in there. You really can't get another one in there at the same time. A lot of times the barges will, the vessels be having to wait for one to leave before it can move in and be operate. We don't have a lot of storage area in there. You can see how even in this scenario here, it's pretty tight in there, and it's limited. It works. It's small. We're confined, but we would hope to expand it to make it a more viable facility. So the city and the railroad jointly applied for a grant, the Port Infrastructure Development Grant through MARAD, PIDP, and we were successful. Yay on us. So the grant was grant money was about $20 million with matching funds from the railroad and the city is in non-monetary. We're gonna need a little bit more money that the railroad has identified so far, about $600,000. And right now our project estimate's at about $25 million. So originally we had planned on this project right here, the expanded dock, which would be lengthened a little less than 400 feet and widened to give us the uplands. This is what was applied for in the grant, and you can see we could put a large vessel in there, or two smaller vessels, giving us the uplands, and there's a couple texts in there, greatest additional berthing space and handling cargo, and different kinds of vessels. Unfortunately, this grant was put in at 2020. The prices that we used were 2019 comparative, and as we all know, the price of everything has gone up quite substantially. So when we started getting into the real design and updated cost estimates, we found that that $25 million we had was not adequate to build what we'd like to build here. So working with our funding agency, MARAD, they have approved us doing this as a phased construction. And so the plan right now, there's the three phases. It's the brown, the blue, and the yellow. The brown is phase one. That will give us that berthing space. It'll keep the vessels from having to circle around. It'll give us the ability to take larger vessels, less impact to waiting vessels. It's the most critical, is the extension of the dock. We're phasing part two, which is the blue, to get that additional uplands area. And then part three was the yellow, which we'd like to come back and tie that in to make a full width, for the whole width of 300 feet for the dock. So this project also includes
a freight dock road, which will come off, that was part of the grant application. And what this really does is alleviate the traffic on Port Avenue. It's not requiring folks to use it. I'm going to switch to the next slide here. This was the grant application. And this is kind of what we're looking at right now, kind of similar, a little different alignment. It's avoiding some wetlands in that area. So this would be, as we all know, the traffic down in the Harbor District area, especially on Port Avenue, when we'd get passengers, cargo, passengers walking from the railroad depot and moving pipes, etc. Gets very congested there. So this will create an alternative roadway to the Seward Highway. Potentially the purple line is what we'd like to do. It may look something more like the red line. We're looking at getting the final design, and it may be something in between, maybe a phased approach for avoiding utility impacts. So again, this is a general concept from the port to the airport road. So right now, we are doing our NEPA compliance. We're putting our environmental assessment together. We are looking pretty good right now. We've completed preliminary design, and we're in final review with the agencies. And we expect to have final approval by MARAD next summer. That will allow us to get the grant. So until we, the railroad and the city, get that grant, that money's not assured. So once we start moving on it, we obviously all want to get that happening. And part of that is a compensatory mitigation we're required to do. So we had talked to a lot of people, different agencies, harbor masters, etc., looking at different ideas what we can do for mitigation. And the one that came to the top of the list was an idea from the Sea Life Center, is to create a reef. And this would be off of their area. This is not a done deal yet, but it's gone from the top of our list of best options to we're moving forward on this with the city and with the Sea Life Center and with the agencies to see if we can make this a reality. So the Sea Life Center, again, is partnering with us. They've provided us some bathymetry through there. They've done some preliminary surveys, and we've talked with the Corps of Engineers, and they're on board with this to do what's called out of kind, because we are doing a fill at the freight dock. It's not we're creating wetlands, but we're creating a habitat. And the land is not state land, it is City of Seward land. So we're working with the Planning Commission and with the Harbor Master just to make sure it's not an impact to vessel movement. So so right now we're looking at maybe doing they're called reef balls, that little funny looking thing in the corner there. Those were used in Whittier to create a reef. And it creates a habitat for the fish to grow in, and a foray area around it. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We're hopeful this moves forward. If it's within the cost and within the approval, we hope this would be the mitigation. So schedule, right now, we talked about it. We're trying to get the mitigation plan moving forward and approved, getting the NEPA complete by July, executing the grant in August, and then we can get moving. Getting our final permits, final design, and advertise next summer, and get to construction the following winter. That will dovetail very nicely with the passengers project. Finish that off, let's get to something new. So less impacts that way, especially to the freight dock, which we want to keep operational during the construction. So that's basically an update of where we are at right now. Again, right now our focus is getting that grant, getting it executed so we have the funds set and we can move forward on the project. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Questions? Councilmember Barnwell.
I always have questions. What kind of projected increase in freight are you expecting with this new dock? Is that part of it, or is it just going to come naturally?
Not really. There is. We did it during the planning or the master plan. There was a projected freight increase just because it's happening. the idea is this freight dock doesn't increase traffic. It allows for the stuff that's coming and the natural increase. There's not we're bringing in, I don't know, the new stuff from, well, obviously not Whittier, but stuff from Alaska or something, Port of Alaska. No, the intent is not to promote the increase in traffic, it's to provide for the natural increase and what's existing right now.
Just follow up on that. So I know the state had been talking about food security. Have you worked with them on that, and is that part of this project?
In a ways, yes and no. This does allow for additional, by the nature of it. In terms of food, there have not been specifics with the state on this that I'm aware of. If I may default to our Vice President of Real Estate.
I'll just take it. We've been in contact with, a stakeholder group to discuss this, and that really with this first phase is integral to the further phases of the full build out and the widening, which would really allow for statewide food security. So in addition to being a Seward project that really anchors, freight and those important jobs servicing that freight, it also provides a backup for all of South Central Alaska up into the interior with the full build out of the project.
Thanks.
Okay. Other questions? Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There had been at some point in some previous conversations that I had had that this dock could potentially bring in the marine highway system and some of our ferries if that were to be something that we explored in the future. I just wanted to know, has that been a conversation with this?
I'm going to answer that. The way it is right now really depends on the ferry. There are so many different ferries out there. Some of the ferries I suspect probably could go there right now. A lot of them are stern loading, side loading. Some have their own ramps. Some require their own system to unload. To answer your question, it has not been designed for a specific ferry, but it, again, would depend on which ferry we're talking about.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, it all sounds great. Thank you very much.
Turn it off?
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to public hearing. We have one public hearing. It's an ordinance for enactment. It would be Ordinance 2025-004. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the title?
Ordinance 2025-004, amending Seward City Code Title 7, Campgrounds, Parks, and Open Spaces, and Title 11, Paid Parking, to clarify that day use areas, campgrounds, and other reservable areas are subject to parking enforcement.
Okay, thank you. And you'll find this on page 72 of the packet. I'd need a motion to enact and a second, please.
I'll move for the enactment of ordinance 2025-004.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, what would you like to say about this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this ordinance does a bit of clarification for our Parks and Rec team. Currently, they operate and do the, sorry, I got distracted. Currently, they operate and do the parking fines, but this clarifies that they are also able to do fines for people in campers or RVs, or people who are parked in those campers and RVs in spots that are not necessarily allowed. So it expands that oversight to include the campgrounds and day use areas for RVs and campers and the like. And I'll invite Benny to add anything if he would like. Or if you have any further questions.
If you'd like, and then we'll do public hearing, and then we'll do the questions.
Perfect.
Yeah, my name is Benny, Parks and Rec. Yeah, there's been times I've been with Parks and Rec, for about a little over a year now, and there was just an obvious hole in our authority and how we service visitors. For example, a family coming, or we can all put ourselves in those shoes, or you're going on a vacation and your hotel's not ready, or your rental car is not quite ready to go, and the inconvenience that can cause you. Well, in this case, if our campgrounds, it's, you know, a family coming or a couple coming or just a single person coming and someone being in their reserved area that they planned since 6 months prior. And then you show up and we can't get a hold of people to make this right for them. So this is a way to prevent that and deter that behavior. This seems to be our best remedy for that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Nope, nothing else for me. Thank you.
I'll open the public hearing on 2025-004. Mr. Clerk, has anyone signed in?
Nobody is signed in to speak.
Okay, does anyone out there wish to speak to this? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for questions and comments. Councilmember Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a question for administration. I apologize. I didn't read this ordinance.
Well, gee.
I know, I'm sorry. Can you just give me a brief overview on the parking enforcement? I don't understand how we're gonna be doing that.
So if you imagine, you booked your trip to Seward, you're going to your spot, but somebody is in the spot that you booked, or a car's parked there, or something along those lines. This gives us the opportunity to give the person that's in that spot a violation, to hold them accountable for stepping into the spot that had been previously reserved.
We didn't have that before.
We did not
Right.
have the specific delineation that we were able to enforce parking, or parking is utilized to cover campers and RVs in that area.
Okay, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, thank you. But I understand that we can write them a ticket, but that doesn't, how do we solve the problem if we have this family that shows up with their RV that booked 6 months in advance? We got the boss to tell me, are we hooking a tow rope up to them or to the people, you know, because if we just write a ticket and put it on the window, we still have this family that doesn't know where to go.
The family, we have yet to have a situation where we couldn't accommodate that family.
Okay.
But it's the consistent, like, repeated behavior of.
Mm-hmm.
So the family will be taken care of.
Okay.
Absolutely 100%. The system we have now is using our reservation system called CampSpot.
Mhm.
But if the violator is not in that system already, there's nothing we can do. Whereas our up-safety system now has the umbrella of oversight in campsites, which goes to the registered vehicle owner.
Thank you. I apologize
That
for
makes
that.
total sense,
Thank you.
yeah.
Is there?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councilmember Barnwell.
Curious how much a violation would cost. I mean, what kind of deterrence is that if it's pretty minimal?
$25, same as a parking violation, $25, and it doubles, it increases $25 every 30 days until it reaches $100, which is the limit. Then there's a $30 collection fee. So in grand total, if not taken care of, it'll go from 25 to 130. Yes, sir.
Anything else? Ready to vote? We're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Voting on the enactment of Ordinance 2025-004. Osenga?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That ordinance has been enacted.
Okay, thank you. This brings us to new business ordinances for introduction. Ordinance 2025-007 had been brought off the consent agenda, so we'll deal with this at this point. Mr. Clerk, when you're ready, could you read the title, please?
Introduction of Ordinance 2025-007, amending Seward City Code 15.10.140, definition of an efficiency apartment, 15.10.226, land uses allowed table, adding attached and detached accessory dwelling units, and updating 15.10.215, parking for accessory dwelling units.
Okay, thank you. And you'll find that on page 24 of the packet. I would need a motion to introduce and a second, please.
I move for the introduction of ordinance 2025-007.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, do you want to speak to this, and then I'll get to why you...
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to highlight, the effect of this legislation would allow attached ADUs with any number of rooms that are subordinate in size to the single-family dwelling in zones RR and R1, and attached or detached ADUs with any number of rooms subordinate in size to the single-family dwelling in R2, 3, URORAC zoning districts and commercial business zoning districts with a conditional use permit. And for any further insight, we have our community development director, but I'll defer to Councilmember Wells.
Yeah, Councilmember Wells, yeah,
Thank you,
brought it
Madam
up,
Mayor
so-
and Administration. As I've stated multiple times, I am all for development, whether it's ADUs or apartment complexes. On page 26, towards, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th paragraph down, only one ADU will be allowed per single-family dwelling. No problem, I support that. Detached ADUs would be required to have their own water, sewer, and electric lines separate from the primary dwelling if the unit was located on a property that could be subdivided. During these planning and zoning meetings that specifically talked with this, there was a lot of back and forth with the commissioners, and I understand how they came to this, but I want to state that I disagree, because if we're trying to create and encourage development, and we are trying to help this housing issue, we want people to develop ADUs. And if you have a property that could be someday by someone subdivided, but you have no intention of doing that, but you need to, or you want to put an ADU on it, you're now going to be required to pay to have separate sewer, water, and electricity ran to that unit, if I'm reading this correctly. And I think that although I agree if the property is subdivided and sold, that should happen, but I do not believe, I believe that there's a way to word it where you can build the ADU, you can use the current water, sewer, and electric lines, but if you subdivide and you sell that lot, the buyer could easily have a clause, just like the ones we've talked about in the Forest Acres subdivision, that states you will have to disconnect from the resident, the original property, and you'll have to pay to have water ran. And the reason being is the cost savings for the person who's trying to build this ADU.
Could I ask administration, is this something we could deal with? I mean, this is just for introduction.
This is just for introduction.
So we could deal with that as an amendment when it comes up
Yes.
at the next meeting? Would that be acceptable?
Absolutely, I just
Okay.
wanted to bring it
But
up.
just to bring it up,
Mhm.
okay, rather than,
We don't have to have the discussion now, Madam Mayor.
okay. Any other discussion on this? Because we will see it at the next meeting, and then we can, but that gives us some insight where you're heading with that. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So, are we ready to vote to introduce? Okay, I think we are, Mr. Clerk.
Voting on the introduction of Ordinance 2025-007. Wells?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That ordinance has been introduced.
Okay, thanks. Next, we have a resolution under new business. Resolution 2025-028. When you're ready, Mr. Clerk, could you read that, please?
Resolution 2025-028, authorizing the city manager to update the city's contract with Electric Power Systems to conduct a land services study for easements along Nash Road for the Phase 2 transmission upgrade project.
Okay, you'll find that on page 77. I need a motion to approve and a second, please.
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2025-028.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This resolution allows for us to enter into a contract with EPS to conduct a land services study for easements with the second phase of our transmission upgrade project, which would define existing easements along the project corridor, identify potential missing easements, and to gain insight into the requirements for expanding our current easements. If you have any detailed questions, we have Taylor Crocker from the utility here, but it's part of the next stage of our transmission upgrade.
Okay, council, do we have any questions or comments on this? It's been pretty thoroughly vetted before. Are we ready to vote? Wow. Mr. Clerk?
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2025-028. Wells?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
We're just whipping on through these tonight. Now we have Resolution 2025, I believe, right. 2025-029. And when you're ready, Mr. Clerk, could you read that?
Resolution 2025-029, authorizing the city manager to execute task order 2734.35 with R&M Engineering for the 15% design and engineering of the police department facility in an amount not to exceed $297,994 and appropriating funds.
And you'll find that on page 85 of the packet. I need a motion to approve and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-029.
And I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this resolution would allow us to move forward with R&M Engineering for 15% design and engineering of our police department and facility, which includes police dispatch, community lost and found, and would act as our EOC center. I also have the chief of police here to answer any other additional questions, but the key for us is often when receiving funding for emergency centers and things along that lines, having the ability to present at least some design is very helpful.
That's important. Okay, council, any questions, comments? Councilmember Barnwell.
I'm going to go back on my soapbox again about the one problem I have with the law. Well, for instance, this is the same engineering firm we used for multiple projects, and I know that they've designed multiple police stations throughout the state as well as fire halls, and yet we're paying them $300,000. To me, it just seems like we're also not actually putting any caveats or any limitations about the design process. And I felt, for instance, in the fire hall, we could have been more specific about what our needs were and maybe get a range of costs or perhaps a couple of different options. For instance, I know that the Homer police station was built for around $10 million. But I know that was pre-COVID price. And I know that there's some talk that it's too small for them. But I guess why I'm throwing that out there is that it would be nice for us as a council maybe sometimes to talk about what our specific needs are and maybe be a little bit more specific to the designers about giving us some options. I just think that the day and age where free money from the feds is going to bail us out is probably gone, and that we need to think carefully and strategically. I'm all for this police station. I'm all for the fire hall. I just think we need to be careful with our money and make sure we get, also that the sizes of these buildings aren't too big and therefore hard to maintain and hard to heat and power up. So that's my comment.
Did you want to direct a question to the chief since he's sitting there? Or have him comment on that?
Yes, why are you retiring?
Grandchildren.
I guess the question would be, I don't know, Chief Nichols, if you're going to be involved in this design, but do you have some project ideas or a range of ideas that you're including in your design?
I just want to make a comment. Like
You'll be gone by then.
We'll be right. But we did a really comprehensive feasibility study where they went and they studied the community. They looked at how many calls we have. They looked at like not just our needs now, but our needs into the future. And so from that and from interviewing, like looking at they toured all our facilities. It's beyond thorough. It's like the feasibility study for the public safety feasibility study is like a 300 some odd page document of.
This is RNet.
Yeah. And so, and also too, just this fee right here is actually not just R&M, it also goes to like KBB and Integris. So they have specializations for the architecture and for some of those other pieces too. So there is engineering behind that, but it's actually 3 entities that money goes to. But if you look at that feasibility study, it's very comprehensive to determine all of the deficiencies and all of our needs, both presently and in the future. And that's what they take that information, and that's what they build the 15% design from. And so.
And this includes the site selection too, though, right?
Yes.
I saw that was like
Yes.
a third of it or something was site selection.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, they look at all these different sites and they look at things for like traffic patterns and ins and outs and like the community around those types of things, and also how you build that with the EOC and kind of some of those things. So it is they'll do yeah.
Anything else? Councilmember Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the chief, for the community, why is it, and I know you've said it before, but please say it again, why is it we can't combine the new police station with the fire station?
Well, the result of the study that Mr. Bickling already referenced, the result of that showed that we were better off to split the two. Very different functions, very different needs for, getting onto like main roads and things like that, which is extremely important to the fire department, but not as important to the police department. For the police department specifically, being, if at all possible, close to the schools is, highly important to us. If we're going to have an emergency operations center, that's a type of facility that needs to be hardened, if you will, so it's protected against all kinds of threats. And up here we're talking earthquakes and tsunamis, and oddly enough, we're talking about a volcano right now. So, and this is the type of facility that we need to have operational no matter what. And so, just vastly different missions there. So,
can I add to that too?
Sure.
The other thing is too, is really if you're looking at space, if you're looking at combining facilities, you have to have a significant amount of shared spaces for those to overlap so they can share. So that's what really makes it cost effective. Otherwise, you're just building two buildings that are basically the same and attaching them. And that's really what we're doing here. But then the function, and when they did like traffic studies, which was a big thing, it's like, it doesn't, and there was not like a significant cost savings because you cannot, the police department and the fire department do not share. If they attempted to build one together, you'd basically just be putting a wall between them, and they're not going to be going back and forth between their facilities. And so there's not a shared space where you could make those cost savings around that. So
yeah. I didn't know that. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
I have a kind of off-the-wall question, but is this intended to include a jail?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Just
so there's a
definitively
cost savings that we actually
okay. Very large cost savings. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of cost savings.
Yeah, that's a significant one. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Were you ready to vote? Okay. We're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2025-029. Warner?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Okay. Do we need a break or can we keep going for a while? Keep going?
I could take 5 minutes.
5-minute break? Okay. I think we should, I always ask about now. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll resume with the other new business, okay? 5 minutes. air.
We are back on the air.
Okay. I'll reconvene our council meeting. It is now 7:58. And we're down to other new business. Item number 1, recommend applicant Karina England for the Seward city seat on the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commission. And her application form you can find on page 106. I guess I need a motion to recommend. Is that what we do?
Well, this is kind of an obscure one.
Yeah.
The process is that the applicant applies through the borough's website.
Right.
The borough kicks it back to us looking for a letter of recommendation, which I provided an
Right.
example of on the next page, page 107 of the packet.
Right.
And then it goes back to the borough and the appointment is made by the mayor. So-
By the borough mayor.
By the borough mayor.
Peter. Okay, so we would just discuss and have a consensus then to recommend, or a vote to recommend?
I would say either or.
Okay.
Call
Okay,
for a vote if you'd like.
okay. Discussion. Councilmember Barnwell.
No, you,
Oh.
you first.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could have Karina just step up to the podium. Just ask her a couple of questions. Is that appropriate, or?
That would be suspending the rules, I believe.
Up to
But
you,
if we
ma'am.
all agree, we can do that, correct? Okay. Are we all
Okay.
okay with that?
I am 100%
Okay.
okay with that.
Okay.
Karina, we're not trying to pick on you. It's just that we had discussed this in a prior meeting, that it would be nice to start interviewing applicants to
Absolutely.
kind of just get the lay of the land, figure out who you are. And I don't have any prepared questions, but I'd like to.
And this is why we didn't do this in the past.
But I came up with a couple real quick ones, with the help of a couple of people. One is, can you just speak to your experience? You mentioned a class you took. Can you speak to that and how that might apply to this particular position?
So, like, it's very basic knowledge. There's a lot of training that I would need. I would need to absorb a lot of information. I would need to read materials, which I am so happy to do. Like, I love reading this stuff just in passing. But just a couple of years ago, during my sustainability certificate course, which was 18 weeks, I believe. Yeah, it was just a fast track course to get a certificate in sustainability. No websites ever count it as like having college degrees or anything like that, so it's just a small little nugget. During it though, there were classes focused on land use and planning and city planning, mostly with a lens of how to do it in a sustainable fashion and eco-friendly way, and to try and push forward for that. So it gave the base knowledge of what land use and planning and city planning is and how to go about it, but then it also applied what we were learning for sustainability and different types of renewable energy and how it can apply into that land use and planning. So, yeah.
Thank you. Did you have?
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this will be about a half an hour. Do you have any particular goals in mind when if you were to be appointed to this position?
Mostly taking what you guys are doing and bringing it to the Planning Commission itself. Speaking, sorry, I'm very nervous about this. It's very vulnerable. But, like, I love our comprehensive plan. There's so many good things about our comprehensive plan. The borough's comprehensive plan, I feel, is a bit outdated. It's from 2019. And there's a lot of good that we have in our comprehensive plan that we can bring to a new, refined borough plan. And I really want to help influence that to bring a lot of what we're doing and what we're wanting to do with our vision and put that into the borough vision as well. That's what my goal kind of is, really, is just to influence while also making sure that what we're doing is noticed, I guess. Yeah.
I want to really thank you for stepping up. I've said this before to a previous Planning and Zoning Commissioner, but this is how I began my meteoric rise to fame back in 2008 or 9. I was that person, and I'd only been on our local P&Z for like a year, so I had to learn everything when I got there. And that's totally possible also, but they're very good group of people to work with, and we need representation. So I just want to thank you for stepping up.
I thank you for having the opportunity.
Councilmember Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Real simple, two-part question. First part is, are you familiar with the Robert's Rules of Order? And if so, can you give an example of a position where you've got to use that? And the second part is, do you feel confident that you can sit on this commission and have a non-biased opinion on development and to be able to hear all stakeholders' opinions and take that into consideration before passing a vote? Thank you.
Yeah, so first part, I'm still kind of refreshing on it. I've started reading a bit into how a planning commission works, just in case, and about the rules of order as well. And I believe that that's the second, I give this motion, I second this motion. Yeah, everything that you guys are doing very well. I love seeing it, so thank you. I haven't had to use that yet, but it's something that it's part of what I really want to learn and absorb, and it's exciting to me. The second part of the question, that is one that will be a bit more difficult, but I do feel confident in my ability to do that. Okay, so part of why I ended up living and moving in Seward is because of Seaview and their mental health program. And through that program, I learned a lot about being more unbiased and hearing everybody else out in order to have a more authentic discussion and coming together in that unbiased way to come to a solution. And there is a lot of practice involved with that because you're in a house with a bunch of roommates and we're all having issues. And it was really eye-opening, so I really feel that I would be able to put my own bias aside to hear out what may be best for the borough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? I entertain a motion to recommend.
I'll make that motion to recommend.
Recommend.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Can we vote on that? It would be to recommend Corinna England for the Borough Planning Commission, period.
Paperwork ready for the vote?
Yeah.
Okay, so voting on recommending Corinna England as the Seward City seat on the Borough Planning Commission. Barnwell,
Yes.
Kreitz,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
and Mayor McRae.
Yes,
Okay, we will get that letter of recommendation going
get
tomorrow.
it signed.
Thank you all.
Congratulations and thank you. Okay, our second new business item is a discussion to discuss a liaison to PACAB and Planning and Zoning Commission. This is brought to us by Councilmember Wells, and there's a write-up on it on page 108 if we need that. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember Wells to say stuff.
All right. So in the packet, on the last few pages, starting on page 10, we're all on page 108. As you know, when we were appointing, we used to have a city council member who was appointed to the liaison for PACAB and for planning and zoning. And it is actually in our council member binder packet under Rule 35 that the council relations with boards and commissions and advisories stipulates that the mayor will appoint a council liaison to P&Z and to any other boards. I think the reason why I'm bringing this forward is I believe that it's something very important for us as a council to do. I think that having a council member be responsible for updating the council on what's happening at these boards and commissions does two things. One, it shows the boards and commissions that we are actively participating, and that although I believe we're all at home watching the meetings live, I think that having them knowing that there's active participation helps those boards and commissioners feel like they're doing it, that they're getting something done, that they're doing something. I think it's a real positive thing to reenact. And I know that there's been talk about having the Director of Community Development participate in doing that, and my response to that is the City Council appoints boards and commissions. The City Council should have a liaison to boards and commissions. It's not administration's job to monitor those meetings and give reports back to us. So that's how I feel about that.
Okay, other input from council members. I've received some input from Planning and Zoning Commission members that, and I kind of agree with them, that it's a bit intimidating. For example, I'm so intimidating, but if I were sitting in the back there and Planning and Zoning is making some decisions, it might change their feelings about how they would vote, they're saying, if I were there as mayor, or another council member. I know that we are all free to attend any meetings we want, but the fact that there might be a single person there each time could be just a bit off-putting, and I'm just conveying that because I've had communication from a couple of Planning and Zoning members. None from PACCAB have talked to me about this, so.
May I respond, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
Thank you. I can see that, and actually in the research that I've done, and looking at the pros and cons for a liaison to boards and commissions is exactly what you just brought up. I'm not recommending that a council member be physically present at each meeting. I'm recommending that a council member be responsible for writing a summary, whether you watched it or you were present, writing a summary and presenting it to council.
That's a whole different thing.
That way there is none of this possible intimidation aspect, because I agree with you 100%.
I did not get that the first time, so,
The only problem I would see with that is context. If you're not sitting in person watching this live in front of you, context to be taken out. You could say something and it might not be, as a report, it might not be accurate as to what the council or the board or the commission was trying to put out there. And does anybody remember why we stopped for a reason?
We stopped, I believe, partly because people were watching it on YouTube, I think, and we also felt that it was kind of superfluous, I guess, so I don't have complete recall on that. It hasn't been that long since we've stopped. We had other liaisons, and I know we can do this at any time. This also came up, just taking it away from Planning and Zoning for a minute, that there was a comment by a PACCAB member that we never appear at meetings, and there was kind of a complaint, and that's what kind of sparked this originally. But as I've said before, I might be the only one, but I watch every meeting. If it's not live, I watch it the next morning with my cat in my easy chair. And so I'm totally aware, as all of us can continue to be, I think we all have the ability to watch those on YouTube too. So I'm on the fence about whether we need to appoint a liaison. It has been suggested that for Planning and Zoning, Danny could give us reports, and perhaps for PACCAB, the harbor master who would be there at the meetings anyway could. So that's another option that we should think about. So, Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to just second what you have already said, and I do see value in having administration, whether it comes from the harbor master or comes from community development, and giving council a summary of what's happening at those meetings to help keep us up to speed on the things that they're talking about. I too watch them on YouTube and stay.
Cat?
Well, I do have cats, but they don't usually sit with me. But so I think that is a good avenue to go to help ensure that our PACCAB and our P&Z members are able to have open discussions without feeling any type of intimidation or unease about having council members present.
Someone else, you had your hand up earlier. Vice Mayor, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do we not have a board and commission reporting slot in our agendas? I mean, is there is there something to be set up, maybe a rotational kind of thing where,
11A, boards and commission reports and recommendations to council.
right?
We have that in
Right,
our
but
agenda.
what I'm trying to say, or state, is that we can have, I thought we had requirements that they did make reports to us and recommendations.
I think we still, that's a question for the clerk perhaps. I think we still have that somewhere in writing, but I don't think we've really pressed it. What's the deal on that?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of fallen by the wayside. In the past, there were quarterly reports.
Right.
With this new agenda item being there, it's like an open invite for any reports, so that if PAC had something like more pressing to report to council, they wouldn't wait for their quarterly report. They would just submit a memo to the clerk's office to put in the packet.
Okay, Councilmember Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to apologize to administration because I did not bring this forward to add more work to administration's table. I brought this forward because I believe that it's important for council members to be in this position, and for council, we're elected, and those boards and commissions are under our purview, and we should be paying attention, and we should be at those meetings. And if the boards and commissioners are intimidated because there's a council member there, it makes me wonder what's going on at the board at those meetings that would make them uneasy about having a council member there. So if we're going to move towards not appointing a council member as a liaison, then I would also recommend that we don't add any more work to administration's table. They have plenty to do, and it's not their responsibility, in my opinion, to inform the council on what's going on. And if there's council members that don't have time to watch the episodes and pay attention, I just thought that a summary from another council member, a one-page summary, would be easier. But I definitely don't want to add more work to anyone in administration.
So what do the rest of you think? Councilmember
I'll throw
Barton.
my 2 cents. I'm guilty
You're
of I'm guilty of not watching all of the meetings online. So I'll just say that, and I do kind of agree that having some mechanism to force us to be more involved, I just often feel guilty that I'm not up to speed on, say, P&Z and what they're doing. And I think it might force the council to be a little bit more involved with them and with PACAP. I do get I'm a little bit on the fence like you on the intimidation factor. At first I didn't really think that it really mattered. I kind of agree with the Wells, but then I could see where there might be some of that. Although I think that might kind of ease off pretty quickly once they figured out we're just humans. I don't know if they don't think we're human right now, but I'm just saying.
We're just.
So I guess what I'm saying is that I like the idea of doing something, and I don't want to put more on the admin. I agree with that. I think they've got enough on their plate. I mean, Danny's already at the meetings, but he's not always at these meetings, and that would require him to be at all these meetings, and I don't want to put that on him.
I think the idea was he's at the planning and zoning
Right.
meetings, and so.
He would do a write-up.
Do a write-up, like a summary of the last 2 meetings or something? I mean, I'm not visioning him doing a minutes, but
Yeah.
I don't know what others are thinking, so. We might ask Danny to come up and see his opinion on this, since he seems to be the one right now.
Yeah, thank you. When I do my bi-weekly city manager report, part of that is not just to update you all, but update the public on what is happening from my perspective with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so you can read that specific section of the agenda packet, and we'll have, I just kind of do mini recaps. I'm happy, again, can summarize those in quarterly reports or whatnot. But at the end of the day, yeah, whichever direction council decides to go with this, like we can make work. I was at that meeting where the comment was made about the lack of presence of city council members, and maybe it's just if you all are watching now at YouTube on home, like you're still paying attention, just maybe go out of your way every once in a while to let the commissioners know or PACAB members know that, hey, I heard that, or a note from here or there, just to know that you're kind of listening. Might make them feel like heard and appreciated. So, but we're happy to work with whatever system works best for you all.
I would also like to add that things are intimidating if they don't happen often. So if a council member continues to show up at a meeting, it might become less intimidating, you know, just from an outside perspective on that. And just to add to Councilmember Wells' point is that depending on what the intent of the report is, the Planning and Zoning Commission and PACAB are appointed by the City Council. So whichever way, so the report coming from Danny would be as the administrative representative to Planning and Zoning. It wouldn't be as the council's representative, you know, just to clarify.
If I can add one more thing, I think if you lay out, I think to maybe avoid the intimidation factor, if you go that route, would be just to educate the commissions of what specifically the liaison role would be. Because the commissions do take direction from you as a body, but they don't take direction from an individual member of city council. And so as a councilman, I get excited when a council member comes to the P&Z meetings, because I think that's really cool and it shows that you're taking an interest. And I think if there's that type of education behind it, like, hey, yeah, we're here just to kind of help interpret things for council or pass on messages or whatever, but I'm not here to judge you or give you direction, because you don't really have that authority as an individual. You know, so again, my educational background, I think we educate people on what the purpose is and the reason why we're doing it. I think it could work.
Okay, I'll get Councilmember Price.
I was just thinking, if we do decide that we want to have a council member on there as a liaison, maybe doing it as a rotating thing between all council members, just because that way it's not the same person giving their perspective on how things went. You know, you could come and give a report at each council meeting, and it'd be a different council member doing that.
Well, it would be my duty to appoint. So that adds a thing.
Or just saying,
But
it's a
that's
rotating
okay.
schedule.
No,
you know,
that's-
that we all have that we all participate in that.
That's the thing. Councilmember
Madam
Wells.
Mayor, then this will be the last I have to say about Councilmember Kreitz. I think that is a great idea, and to ease the responsibility for the mayor, it could be a rotation that's quarterly, and we could ask as a council at the beginning of each year, okay, who's going to volunteer for the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and if you get no volunteers, that's when you start appointing. And I think that would work for both commissions, and it does have us all be involved, and that's what I'm trying to get to. I outlined in my document the reasons, and I'm just going to read the bulleted items. You can all read the explanations for each one, but I just want the reasoning for my idea: enhanced communication, expedited decision making, improved coordination, greater accountability, comprehensive representation, efficient information sharing, effective conflict resolution, and increased public trust. The increased public trust is my number one reason. And that's all I'll have to say about the liaison part. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I really like the recommendation by Councilmember Kreitz. I will take the third quarter of PACAB.
It's coming up right now.
Well, they're out. During the summer.
Thank you for being there this
Okay. So we've talked full circle, and the quarterly, do we want to do it for both of these then? Is that I meant PACAB and Planning and Zoning, quarterly rotation. Okay, there's 7 of us. If that's what we agree on, then what if, for the next meeting, you turn in your preferences to me, and then we'll make some decisions at the next meeting as a discussion item of that rotation? Does that sound, there may be people here that don't feel comfortable or don't have the time.
Absolutely.
And I would honor that, I think. Unless we're going to get, you have to do it because I had to do it or whatever. But there should be an interest, right?
Is this in person or YouTube?
Well, that's the other, I'm getting there.
Okay.
a liaison on a quarterly basis, rotation. B, is it going to be, can we watch it on YouTube and report, or do we have to physically be there? Let's discuss that real quick. Councilmember Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe that the commissions and the boards, if a council member watches the meetings and supplies a one-page summary, that shows the commissions and boards that we're there and that we're paying attention. And I do not believe that you have to be there personally, physically. It's more about sharing the communication.
Vice Mayor.
So just out of curiosity, quarterly, you're watching for the whole quarter? I mean, I'm trying to figure out the scheduling for this.
So that's 3 months, yeah.
Okay, so you're going to attend every planning and zoning meeting, or you're going to watch every planning and zoning meeting for that entire quarter, and then at the end of the quarter you make your report?
Oh, that's.
See what I'm saying? It's
each meeting.
Each meeting you make a report?
Yeah.
How about work sessions? I think we can cut the work a little bit. I mean, they have 3-hour work sessions.
And that should be in the report, because that's ridiculous.
Well, but they do.
So basically I'm just asking what we're actually doing here, because you're saying quarterly, but to me that means I want to know if you're talking about me going to, for a quarter, going to every single meeting that they have, and then at every meeting here, I have to report for every single meeting that I go to for a quarter? Or are you talking about we report quarterly and just, we're supposed to watch for a quarter, and then we come in and say, well, in April we did this, or they did this, and May they did this, and June they did this? See what I'm saying?
And I will point out, they have minutes too that are published.
Well,
so.
right, and so we're getting into the weeds here, and I'm not sure what we're actually volunteering for.
Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I ask, when were these liaison positions developed for the city? Was this prior to YouTube videos?
Oh,
Was
yeah.
this, it was?
Absolutely.
So I feel like it might have had more of an importance before the meetings were publicly available digitally, to have somebody there in person to be able to provide these report backs. So I do appreciate the comments about the amount of time and the time commitment to that when we're already committed to so much time here as well. When we all can go on and watch the videos, we can all attend. And if it's something that we as a council feel that we need to be more informed of, then that's something that we can be doing on our time, but not being required to.
I feel like we're undecided on this thing. We have two, I mean, I'm not going to make the decision for us here, but how about, I don't know. I think there have to be some guidelines then, because Vice Mayor is correct. I mean, if we're going to report for our quarter, if we're going to be doing a comprehensive report on each meeting that we sit through, we could just as easily read the minutes of the meeting. And, you know, I mean, so that's just adding a layer of work. Councilmember Barnaga.
Could we do something like this? Could we commit as a group to being more conscientious about watching and or attending the meetings? And maybe even make a personal goal to attend 1 or 2 or 3 per year, just so that we're more attentive and involved in those groups. Would that be enough? Or I don't know. You know, I mean, that could be one way to do this.
Like I say, we're of two minds on this. You know, so I don't know. Do we want Councilmember Warner, and then I'll get you. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could we maybe ask, since we have an agenda item, boards and commissions, reports and recommendations to council, that the chairs of each of those groups provide us with at least once a month, kind of just summary of the things that they've been working on?
We could ask that. It wouldn't accomplish what Councilmember Wells is intending, because it would be from them.
Yep.
And I think Councilmember Wells wants a bit of oversight of them.
I guess going on what Councilmember Warner saying, I think if we had the opportunity, if they did give a report monthly and we had the opportunity to question, you know, have a discussion with them on what they're presenting.
That's a thought too. Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. I didn't mean for this to be a huge discussion, and I know that we have a lot to do tonight, and I'm more than willing to table this. I just wanted to bring it up and say that, in my opinion, as a council, yes, when I was asked to run for council, I was told that it would be 2 hours a month, 2 days a month, whatever it is, you know. And the fact is that I put in probably 25 hours a week minimum to sit in this chair, and that's my personal dedication to the community, and I just want the councils and board commissioners to know that we are paying attention. And I was very concerned with Mr. Bruce Jaffa's comments, but this is not, I'm not trying to force anybody to do anything. That's not my goal in any way, shape, or form. I just wanted to bring light to something I think is a problem.
Okay. So, Councilmember Barnwell, your suggestion, we pay more attention and be more diligent, was that you, or was that, yeah. Does that sound agreeable for now, and let this go?
Sure.
Because this could go on? Okay. This is how we work. It's sausage making, but it comes around. So, and just know, commissions, and that I'm watching you all the time. So, with my cat.
That is intimidating.
Pardon me? It's actually intimidating. I know. I can bring the cat, but, you know. Okay, well, then let's move on to discussing the application process to be a P&Z commissioner, and that was also brought to us by Councilmember Wells, and it's on page 111, and Councilmember Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, as you know, during the last appointment process for planning and zoning, I mentioned my concerns with just randomly appointing people to these commissions and boards so that we have a quorum. Our community is on a cusp of either staying Seward same or expanding and developing and moving ahead. And I think it's important for the council, since we are appointing these commissioners and these board members, that we do interview them so that we know, do they understand the comprehensive plan? Do they understand the Robert's Rules of Order? Do they understand what the goals are for the community? And I don't feel that just appointing somebody who writes a single sentence on an application, I don't believe that just to fill the seat qualifies them to sit on our planning and zoning and participate in how this community is going to grow and develop.
I agree with you on that. I think that we would have to write it in, we'd have to agree on this, but I think that not only doing the application, they should be present at the time of appointment, or however we say that, and also be willing to answer some questions. Maybe we won't call it a complete interview, but at least be questioned by the council. She did it, and she did okay. We have a perfect example of that being enacted tonight. So, yeah, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My only concern is if we're going to try to get the absolute most competent person to be on Planning and Zoning Commission, and we're going to start having requirements for them to do that, then we're going to eliminate just the people that are like, hey, I got time, I can volunteer and do that. They might not know certain things, they might not be fully engaged in it, but are willing to learn and willing to grow into that position, right? As a small town commission.
But that could be a question. I mean, I came in not knowing anything. I was a chemistry professor, right? And so I got on planning and zoning, and I learned, and then, you learn. So if I were asked at that time, I would say, I know nothing about this, but I'm willing to learn. And I think...
Perfect example.
I know, I didn't want to say,
well,
but...
I think what my point is that not everyone's that polished. People aren't... automatically gonna be able to
So you
sit there and
think
say
that-
those things and.
You think that people wouldn't be willing to answer?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they might not,
I just wanted you to say.
they might not physically be able to, they'd be nervous, they might not
Yeah.
know, and then just poof. And we might not, I guess I'm just trying to figure out that we're not gonna get so restrictive with what we're trying to ask for people who are volunteering to be on our planning and zoning commission. Yes, I agree they should know, but not everybody is going to polish up and know everything about it.
Councilmember Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree 100%, Councilmember Rosenga. The purpose isn't to say you have to have these requirements or else you can't be on the P and Z. That wasn't my intent.
Okay.
Because as we all know, I still don't know anything, and I didn't know anything when I got elected as a council member.
That's a point.
Right? But it at the very least shows a commitment to our community that we as a council are not just filling these seats to fill the seats, right? And it also, if we can set a bar, if you will, I believe that there's people in our community who would be amazing P&Z commissioners. They would be amazing PACAB members, but they're like, they don't see some of the other commissioners, right? They're like, I'm not going to participate in that particular show, if you will. So maybe by just appointing anyone, we are actually excluding some extremely qualified people. And so again, I'm not saying we have to set a bar and you have to pass this test to be on P&Z. I'm saying there should be some type of interaction process, more so than just write a single sentence on a piece of paper and check that you're a resident.
No, I agree. Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do like the recommendation that you had mentioned about being present at the time of appointment. I do worry a little bit about creating another barrier to being able to get people into these volunteer positions. We have historically had issues with ensuring that our commissions are full. But at the same time, I'm wondering if we do choose to move forward with the interview process, that maybe we just have questions already outlined that we can ask. I would say that I really appreciated the questions that you asked Councilmember Wells about Robert's rules and about being unbiased. I think those are really great questions to be able to ask. But just to be able to provide a little bit more transparency in what that interview process would look like, just having some of those questions predefined.
Are we okay with the suggestion of having them be present and some kind of interview to start with? How about we come up with interview questions, like those two are just probably what I would write down, and maybe we could put those together and come up with just a couple. I think that it's scary because if they're generic, this isn't the scary, if they're generic enough, we can get the answers we want without attacking a person personally.
Yeah, I don't want to attack anything.
So, those kind of generic questions, it's like, I think that's a good idea. So maybe we could push this off to the next meeting to define the questions and exactly how we want to put this in. Would that be okay? Yes? I know that's a little obtuse.
I have a question about the agenda. So the feedback I'm hearing is do not put them on consent. They will all be new business because there's going to be, this built-in discussion.
Yes.
And my other question was, does this go for reappointments as well?
Oh.
Why not?
I'm seeing nods in the skepticism. Nods in a skepticism. I'm a skeptic. Yeah, why not? Because, things might change. I don't think we're really asking too much here. Having watched this for almost 10 years now on council, I think that this would be good because, I don't know.
If I may, just a little historical tidbit, because I was looking into this recently. There was an ordinance about 25 years ago that sort of put this process in place. The previous process was appointments by the mayor. So it would get sort of pre-screened by the mayor, go on the consent agenda and then get rubber stamped. And so
It's just like,
this made it
gosh,
more.
I want that power. Yeah.
And Soldotna still does it that way. So there's never any real debate about it. It's just.
Well, this is good though, because I think we own that, so, yeah, I don't want to go back to that. The feeling of power though, it's just like, whoa. So, put this on for the next meeting to come up with 2 questions. We'll agree on them, say 2, and then we'll define the how we will write it in the code or whatever, our procedures, right? Does that sound good? Okay. We did it. That was it. Citizen comments. We've got a couple citizens still here, and you get 5 minutes for this. There's one right now. She's up here. She's ready. Okay.
Cindy Eklund, inside city limits. Kenai Peninsula, I'm talking about as a Kenai Peninsula member, assembly member. The assembly gets a recommendation from the mayor, and we approve appointments to our boards and commissions as well. So, just like you were going to be doing. Have a few announcements from the assembly. The April 15th Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly meeting will be held in our library museum in the Commons Room. And we will be having commending resolutions for the state football winners and the girls basketball state winners. We were the only peninsula team to win a state basketball trophy this year. And we might also have a commending resolution. Our cheerleaders had the academic award for the highest GPA. I've had a lot of public comments from citizens across the borough regarding school funding. And I think I could say that I'm in support of funding to the cap. The borough mayor has indicated he is not in favor of funding to the cap. And just as you know, I can only talk to 2 other assembly members to see what they're going to vote on the cap or not. But the mayor can talk to all 9 of us. And so if you want to give input, make sure you're sending a public comment to the assembly clerk or coming to the meeting or zooming into the meeting on the 15th. But it would be great to see a lot of people there to share their wishes about school funding, because it will be coming up to a vote at our first meeting in May. And that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Thank you. The meeting would be Tuesday, April 15th?
Yes.
At 7 p.m.
Yes, thanks.
And I would say that it is important if we can be at that meeting, because we fought a little bit to get them to come back to Seward and Homer after COVID and all that. Anyone else wishing to speak out there? Come on up. You're getting more bold now about the second part. Yay.
I just wanted, well, I guess Karina England, Inside City Limits. I just wanted to make a couple comments on the interview discussion for yeah. Anyway, as an interviewee, I think this was fine. This was a fine process. I didn't feel attacked, and having a bit of knowing the questions beforehand may be helpful, but just the way that it was here, just a conversation, this was completely fine. I just wanted to add my 2 cents to that in case it helps. So,
okay. Thank you.
That's
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll bring it back to council and administration comments and responses to citizen comments, and I will begin with our city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate everybody for a great work session tonight. A big kudos again to Jason and Ashley for putting together an awesome packet and for all of the good discussion in the work session at the meeting tonight. That's all.
Okay. Mr. Bickley?
I just repeat that. Just thank you for your time and effort. We've been talking about that for, I think, like 2.5 years. And so I'm just glad we're kind of seeing we have a pathway forward and so people can get their homes developed. So. Property developed. Thank you for your work on that. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Warner,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank City Administration for all of the great work for the work session today, and thank you to the Clerk's Office for putting together a great packet. I do want to say that I did attend the last PACAB meeting. I'd like to note they had a great conversation on heat pumps. They also had a presentation done by JAG. Highly recommend that everybody hop online, watch it on YouTube. It was a very informative presentation by JAG, and I'm happy to hear that the heat pump conversation is continuing on outside of just our city council meetings and into some of our commissions. And the high school theater collective has been hard at work preparing for their production of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Mark your calendars for opening night. It is on Friday, April 14th at 4:30 at the Seward High School.
Friday is not April 14th.
It's
Monday,
Friday,
April
April
14th.
4th, I believe.
Oh,
April
yes,
4th,
it
yes.
is.
I'm like,
We're on
My
a
L and my
count.
4 were really close to each
So,
Okay, Councilmember Barnwell.
I would like to, well, I really liked the amount of people that came to the meeting tonight. Was really refreshing. It's really nice to have people involved with this. The freight dock presentation was excellent, and it's pretty darn exciting to see all these great projects coming down the line. And the Forest Acres was awesome. I feel really good about that. I'm glad that we're coming towards a resolution for that. And I think Cindy, wasn't your granddaughter on that team?
MVP of the
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to say is that Charlie and Chocolate Factory, that's Roald Dahl. He wrote me a letter when I was a young teacher, and he sent me back a letter. My first year of teaching, and my third graders in Southeast Alaska in this little village, and he made fun of me completely. He's like, "Dear third grade students, your teacher is a goofball." And he spent a whole page, Roald Dahl, writing about me as a goofball. And I was just like,
I could have done that.
and I lost that letter.
What?
And he died the next year. He died, I think, in '93 maybe, but that was, or '91, I guess. But yeah, I lost the letter. It's true story.
That's crazy.
But yeah. So anyway, yeah, thanks.
Well, top that, Councilmember Wells. Go ahead.
Well, first, thank you to everybody who came out today, and I appreciate the council for listening to my ideas and my ramblings, and I appreciate this council being able to work together, and it's awesome. And I also wanted to thank Community Development, and specifically Courtney, for her presentation at the last P&Z meeting for the plat maps. I actually learned a lot, and I too enjoy all the different north arrow designs for the plats and maps. And I also wanted to thank Councilmember Warner for going to the PACAB meeting, and that was a great PACAB meeting as well. And I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you.
Councilmember Kreitz.
I just wanted to say that I definitely enjoyed the work session. There was a lot of informative things that I was not aware of, the historical part of that, so it was good to get that knowledge, and I'm glad we're working towards being able to do something for them. And in regards to the application process, I do think it's a good thing, and just like she said, you know, if you're appointed to something, not knowing that person, I know that was how I initially got onto council, was being appointed on a vacant seat, so I did have that kind of interview process in front of council. It just kind of prepares you for what you're going to be doing.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Osega.
I'll start off with thanks to administration and Councilmember Wells. The work session there was a lot of information in that work session, and I think we touched on a lot of different ideas, and I think it was came out with some good progress in that area. Also, congratulations, of course, to the Seward High School girls basketball state 2A champs. That's pretty doggone awesome. And I would like to thank Elizabeth Greer and the Alaska Railroad for her Alaska Railroad presentation. And I would like to say congratulations and welcome to, or congratulations to Karina England to the KBB Commission.
Okay, thank you. All that they said. Congratulations to you, Karina, and it's a good work session. Well, I think we did some good work tonight. You got to see us interact. You're wanting to say something before.
One small thing before you wrap up.
I have a lot to say. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, Matt.
I did just want to remind people City Hall will be closed on March 31st. It's Seward's Day, which is usually a day that people post on Facebook why is City Hall closed, because it's not a normal holiday. But all city offices will be closed on March 31st.
Thank you.
Best holiday.
Seward's Day, baby.
Okay, but I have a couple other announcements of things I'm doing. This Thursday at 7 p.m., well, Thursday is March 27th, and that's the 61st anniversary of the 1964 quake. Some of us were here. Some of us are involved in the Resurrection Bay Historical Society, so we're having a sort of pass the mic time, but we also have some new not videos, they were probably, I don't know what kind of cameras they had back then, but of sort of panoramic videos of the day after the earthquake around town. Very interesting. We have 4 2-minute shots of that. So I'm thinking we're going to show that and have some discussion of our stories and like that. So it should be really interesting. That's this Thursday at 7 in the community room. And it's free for those listening. Also, I'm going to put in a plug because we won't meet again until the community choir concert, which will be April 10th at 7 p.m. And we're having it at the Lutheran Church because they have the best piano in town. And it should be a really fun, less than an hour concert, and it's free. And these guys and gals have worked really hard, so I'm pushing that. And yeah, I was supposed to do some teaching of some music for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but we kind of ran out of time. So this fall I'll be involved in the music that they're going to do. And I want to also thank the people. I got several calls and concerned text messages because I wasn't at the meeting, at the last meeting, and people thought I was ill. I was participating in a family spring break trip, and I've only missed in almost 10 years 2 meetings, so I figured I deserved that one. And I want to thank the Vice Mayor for running a great meeting. So with that, we have an executive session coming up, and I think we can just go ahead and announce that and get prepared for that. Is that all right?
Oh, we have to make a motion to go into executive session and vote on it.
Okay, so I would request a motion to go into executive session, and I'll read what it says, to discuss the city's grounds for taking legal action regarding previous owner of Forest Acres at Fognac subdivision. So I need a motion to go into executive session, and a second, please.
I move to go into executive session for stated reason.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Let's vote on that, and then I'll say who's going in there, okay?
Voting on the motion to go into executive session, Kreitz?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that motion is passed.
Okay, and the question is for administration, we will have council and administration
And the city clerk.
and the city clerk, okay? And so we'll give you guys a few minutes to kind of go away and...
Bye.
Do we need a break? Oh, let's take like a 3-minute break, okay?
3 minutes?
Sure. 3-minute break, and we'll come back and do that.
You were Okay, 9:24, we're back on the air.
Okay, bringing the council back in session at 9:24. We just came out of executive session. We discussed the topic, and I am now going to adjourn the council meeting at 9:24.